36. Lucius and Priya actually clapped. Rashan's smile grew. We are honored today by the presence of special guests, as well as a new member of the family. Welcome Yakol and Mesler, who represent the Northern Order of Templars. As Yakol has explained to me, the Templars serve Solara by maintaining order in the north and policing towns and the commerce that runs between them. They are known to protect the weak, and I welcome their friendship. I hope to soon go and meet with their leader, Baldric, who is himself the descendant of a Chenois ancestor. Rashan's eyes shot to Yakol. He nodded. She returned it and set a hand of splayed fingers to her chest, bowing her head with respect.
Thank you, Gemini, he said. It is our honor to be among those you call family. We welcome your friendship and hope to fight alongside you in the battle against darkness.
Also, I hope everyone has had a chance to meet Liatra. She's a white mage who has pledged her assistance to us.
My fealty, Your Grace.
Her fealty, I corrected. Your dedication to the goddess's will shall reap rewards. Rashan nodded her approval. I sucked up every positive gesture like a child seeking a parent's approval. We're short on time. I'm afraid the elves in the Queen's Forest have major problems. Another regiment has connected with the one I spotted while traveling, and Giles gave the impression the situation is dire.
Oh no,
Priya said. Yes, but Prantu is with him, and they're going to open a portal shortly. I plan to take my usual party of Priya, Dasini, Rashan, and Charni with me.
Whoa, I'm gonna get to heal?
Shut it, Goblin, Rashan snapped. You will be always at my side, and never deviate from my commands in battle until you are frocked.
I pressed on. Any who wish to aid the elves are welcome to come with us. But before you do, I need to share something with our new friends, especially Liatra. Mashini stepped out of the shadows and stood next to Dasini. Sweat dribbled at her forehead, and her facial pallor was stone gray. Mashini suffers from resurrection sickness. When she was attacked by the Pride Master, it didn't occur to me in the moment that Liatra could resurrect her after she fell. Since she'd received a mortal wound, we determined the tip of the spear that cracked her ribs was doused in poison that did more damage than could be healed per second. Since Mashini has an endeared disposition with me, I was able to bind her to me. This gift of Solara allows me to connect with people permanently. The connection can only be broken by my own hand, and then only in death. While people bound to me can live their lives as they wish, they will always be bound, and I will always know if they are in trouble. I peered across the table at Rashan as the Templars and Liatra absorbed the information. I once made the mistake of not binding someone I cared about, and I almost lost her to a fate worse than death. I've learned more about that fate in the last 2 days, but I'll come back to that. Yakol raised a hand.
You say you can bind people to you?
He peered around the table.
What purpose does it serve?
Priya, Charni, Lucius, Rashan, Dasini, and now Mashini are my bound companions. I serve as their attribute trainer, can help them select combat skills not naturally given when they level, and... Rashan shook her head and smirked.
He will not just say it, so I will. We cannot die. We do not age. Just like Gemini, we enjoy immortality so we can serve Solara endlessly.
Huh. Rashan is right. I'm always a little hesitant about that piece when explaining it. But now you know. Thank you, priestess. Rashan nodded. Her cheeks colored a little. Meslar cleared his throat.
You mentioned endeared dispositions. Must one be endeared to you to be bound?
No, just friendly or better. As you know, disposition can vary between males and females. For instance, where Priya loves me, you might respect me. But the two are the same in Solara's eyes. For each rank above neutral, I can spend 1 attribute point for my companions when their combat levels increase. If they are not of the highest disposition, those attribute points remain banked, if you will. So, if we increase our friendship, I can spend them later. Liatra's chin dropped.
This means they never pay for training.
Correct. Not a single gold piece.
And since I'm endeared to you, how many of my points could you spend?
Any existing points, then 3 for every level you gain until I'm beloved to you.
Well, if I might be so bold, you're getting closer the more you talk.
A cacophony of laughter burst out around the table. When order restored, I nodded. Glad to hear it. And this brings me to my point. What happened with Mashini was not how I like to do things. I want those who bind to me to come of their own free will. My rule from the beginning has been that they will always exercise that will at their discretion. If they wish to part ways because their situations change, I will allow them to roam freely. But they will always be bound because I have no control over it. Solara deems I take the bond seriously, and I guess this is her way of showing it. I'm prattling on, I know. The point is, I want everyone to know that I am happy to give the gift of immortality and training to anyone who wishes to bind themselves to me. You need only ask, and I'll see to it. There's no pressure, no requirement that you do so. I would imagine the Templars would have to discuss this with their order, and I welcome that. I hope to meet with Baldric soon and explain it myself. But time is of the essence, and, as I'm expecting a portal at any moment to aid the elves, I can't do it now.
You say I could serve my order and still be bound to you? I could follow my orders, protect Briarton, but still have the benefit of living forever and being trained?
I nodded. Absolutely. And I'm happy to make it happen. As much as the goddess empowers me by giving me this gift, it's the friendship of the people surrounding you that has sustained me through turbulent times. But the gift is mine to share, and I think you're all worthy of it. Yakol wore a stony expression as he spoke.
The Northern Order is happy to meet you at your convenience. I had a clan chat with Baldric last night. Please, Shenhua, handle what business serves the goddess, and know we stand by.
Thank you. Now before the portal opens, I need to share some other information.
I'd like to be bound,
Liatra said. I couldn't say I was overly surprised. She'd been all about me since she found out what I was in Briarton. I made sure she was certain. Then I bound her. I didn't have time for a lot of ceremony, but I was psyched to have another healer in the group, and I'd show it later. In the meantime, Roshan reached to her left and gripped the white mage's hand.
Welcome, sister. It's so nice to have another priestess with me.
In return for your friendship, Mesler said, I offer your tank the services of the Templar Blade Dancer trainer. If you can teach her skills, Destiny will benefit from combat practice. I'm sure Baldric would welcome her.
That's an amazing offer, I said. We will talk. Meanwhile, allow me to press on. I didn't wait for permission. I learned from a shade witch who kept me captive that the governor of Nal had different purposes for Roshan than we originally believed. Roshan perked up.
What purpose?
Let's touch on the history. Even though most of you know it, a recounting will serve the point of my tale. All nodded approval. Charney waved a dismissive hand.
Stop running around the point and get on with it.
Lucius clocked him with her hand in the back of his head, but Charney hardly seemed to notice. He was more affected by the glare Roshan cast him, lowering his head under the gaze. Long ago, after Blight was cast across the sea in Roshan's home continent of Lao, and after the elven city of Nin was destroyed, the university in Warrington began lavating magic users. The word passed through the kingdom that these were rebels who refused to register their abilities and submit to the former king's proclamation. It seems the stories he heard as a child so scared him, he decided his kingdom wouldn't be filled with powerful people he couldn't control. Legend had it that the uncooperative magic users were wiped of their memories, then sent to the governor Zane's ancestor to serve their loyal, moneyed subjects. The practice continues today. But the reason for this practice is a lie. Well, partially a lie. A group of magic users disappeared all those centuries ago, swearing they'd return to end the Latrell line someday. But it didn't happen until a new force entered the world, an immortal being who could grow so powerful she could put an end to the old system and bring about a new age. That woman sits next to me.
What?
Priya asked.
Are you talking about me?
I nodded. I figured a lot out. Let me explain. It's of some note that the Zane family line came into power generations ago. Ever since, the magic users discovered in the towns and villages have either hidden and trained in secret, or been brought to the university in Warrington, where a watchful eye could be kept on them. But the university is just a front for a foul practice. Magic users have trained at the university and lived peaceful lives. They are registered, and therefore are obeying the old laws. But many years ago, the goddess's right hand, Jara, gave birth to a daughter. Again, the woman sitting next to me. At the time, descendants of the magic users who swore to put an end to the lavation practice and return the gift of magic to the world had infiltrated the university. One of the Shadow Council's infiltrators, Prantu, brought Jara's daughter into the university in hopes of creating anarchy from the inside. If they could rock the ancient foundation out of which spawned the city of Warrington and recruit magic users to fight back, then they'd find a better footing to combat the darkness that has defiled this continent for 2 millennia. Priya adjusted in her chair.
But we failed. I was discovered, and they wiped my memory. Pronto smuggled me out before I could be sent north to Milbury Peaks to be put to work for his preferred subjects.
And that is exactly the lie that has been told.
This is a lie?
Yakol asked. Yes. Well, it's partially true. The witch who was supposed to deliver me to Kame, or his agents, at some place I'm unaware of, informed me that the governor does conscript magic users in the service of himself and the king's loyal subjects. The lie is that they stay there. The subjects are hired as security. They lead the soldiers on raids to enforce the law. They tamp down riots on the governor's land by the farmers he mistreats. They gain experience. They grow their mana pools. Then, when the pools are large enough, they're delivered to Kame.
To serve him,
Rashan said. Actually, no. The priestess's eyebrows arched. I shook my head. This witch, Vassel, displayed animosity to the high priestess, or evil Jara, as I've come to think about her, about how they weren't given any of these magic users. I knew what she meant because I saw some of their kind suck out the magic essences of their victims. She wanted to conspire against Kame, to suck out my essence, make themselves more powerful, then make a run at the Underlord. If they would become empowered by siphoning the mana pools of magic users like me, or high-level ones who aren't Shenhua, it followed that Kame is feeding from them to increase his power.
Atrocity, Rashan cried. That Holcrum would feed his servant from the souls of the innocent.
Agreed, but it gets a little more interesting. When I fought alongside the Templars in Briarton, I noticed when the witches fed on fallen magic users, the females disappeared.
Like squirrels in the dark wood?
Priya asked. Exactly like that. The only difference is they didn't respawn. Well, not like the squirrels.
What do you mean?
Rashan asked. Yakol believed women were more pious and their mana pools must be richer, so they make for better feeding.
This I believe,
Rashan said. Right, but might that be a touch of ego, priestess?
Perhaps.
Her lips pursed. I eyed Yakol. Tell me, Beastmaster, did you ever notice how all the witches were female? That there were no warlocks?
Yes, my wolves never spied a male in those woods.
Right, and how long have they been raiding the town to feed off the essences of the fighters?
For as long as anyone remembers.
And how many have died by your own hand?
Too many to count.
Right. And as my beloved priestess pointed out to me, I'd been blinded by thinking of my life as some kind of game. In a game, enemies' points of origin were never in question. My old guilds and I fought the same soldiers in the open world in Light of Babylon for hours to level up. They'd respawn, we'd fight on. But in Enora, only animals spawned again after death, never humanoid beings. When they died, they were just dead. It was an evolutionary system. Humanoids weren't just generated. I couldn't say this out loud, but knowing it eventually revealed the truth to me. I continued, addressing the Beastmaster. So, the witches feed on fallen combatants' mana pools to restore themselves. After one feeds, she returns to the forest. But if she falls in battle, she dies, and her black-robed corpse remains. Female defenders with magic disappear after they die, but the males must be buried. What can we divine from this? Yakol rubbed his bearded chin for a few heartbeats, shaking his head. But it was Liatra who answered.
How did I miss this?
She banged the table. I smiled. Enlighten us.
The females who fall are being resurrected by this high priestess in the forest.
Her brow furrowed.
Had I fallen and they fed off me, that dark priestess would have turned me into one of her minions. A fate worse than death.
Exactly. Meslar threw up a hand and dropped it.
This is why you asked the registrar to keep the women out of combat.
Yup. Yakol grinned.
This is also why you wanted to surround them in battle, to ensure they didn't return to the woods.
I nodded and tapped my nose. You got it. So now we need a plan.
What do you have in mind?
Meslar asked. Kame has to die. but he's a level 75 boss, and I'm nowhere near ready for him. So I think we should cause as much distress for him as possible."
"I like the sound of this already,"
Priya said. Nods of agreement came in reply. "The governor has to go. If we take him off his throne and fill the power vacuum created by his absence, we'll cut off Kaim's revolving supply of mana."
"The Underlord will undoubtedly respond,"
Liatra said. "Oh, I'm sure he will. I want him to."
"Despite my tendency to thrust Solara's will on the darkness, you tempt fate. If he is so high a demon, there's no limit to the wrath he might serve."
"You know, I'd usually agree with you, but we have one major thing working in our favor. No one has ever seen Kaim, except for us, in the Hall of Druids as a smoky visage, and in a recent dream, it seems, Priya and I shared about her past."
"Shared dreams?" Yakol asked. "What magic spawned these?"
"I don't know, to be honest, but his presence at the end of mine was no less than threatening. He also appeared to me in a vision just as I set out on my missions a couple days ago. His desire to have me come to him is strong, but he doesn't seem as willing to come and get me. I think that works in our favor."
"How?"
Priya asked. "He's a raid boss. He doesn't want to leave his stronghold. In order to combat him on his ground, we will be limited in the number of combatants who can enter. So far, no one even knows where to find him. Maybe if the witch had taken me to his so-called agents, I'd have found out where the entrance is. But then, I don't know if I'd have come back out. If he's feeding on mana and keeping people prisoner, as yet another vision showed me at Warrington University, he might not kill me. He might keep me. So I thank the noble Beastmaster for rescuing me from that fate."
"It was my honor to serve."
"In case Kaim decides to come above ground, I'm going to build an army ready to face him. But I don't think he will. Sure, he'll send demons and devils. He'll challenge us, give me nightmares, whatever he can do to lure me forward. But with Solara's grace, I'll withstand his temptations, and will prepare for the raid."
"Solara is pleased by your piety of late. Plus 50 light points. Alignment, light, plus 226. Rank, good. Next threshold, light, plus or minus 250. Next rank, esteemed."
"First, we have other business to tend. I must aid the elves. They would be mighty allies. I hope to meet with the Templars and see if we can come to common ground about the politics of the region. One thing Vassell said was that the young king never sends his troops or so much as an envoy here, and that's because he knows about the ancient arrangement with Kaim. He dares not tread on dark ground. It's possible when I remove his regent, we can just continue to send tithes to his kingdom, and he'll stay put. If not, we burn that bridge when we set foot on it. Then there's this high priestess and the Shade Witches. We've culled their numbers. As long as we can keep magic users from feeding them with their corpses, the high priestess will have no way to replenish her minions. If she's like Jara and can't stray but so far from her source of power, the tree of Hokram as it were, she'll be a lonely demon. But she's still an ancient welt on this land, and when I'm finished, I want the light to own the eastern side of Rubal."
"A lofty goal worthy only of the chosen,"
Mesler said.
"You remind me of Baldric."
"Good. I'm glad. So, I think we need to stick with our original plan in the early going. Build up the foundation, recruit more people, and go after Zane. But I have a plan for going after the governor so we can do it sooner than later. We've been playing defense for long enough. For that, I need just a few dedicated friends." A warbling sound filled the cavern and a slit of light appeared to my right. Everyone rose as a shimmering orange oval split from the line and spread. Wide trunks of high trees appeared on the other side, and standing amongst them were fine humanoids with pointed ears. 2 had white hair, 2 brown, and 1 a shade of red. Giles stood in the center. The old mage Prantu was by his side wearing a lavender robe with gold trim. "Looks like time is up. Priya, Desini, Rashan, Charni, and Liatra, gear up. I want to be through that portal in 5 minutes. Templars, if you wish to fight alongside the elves with us, we would welcome you. But this is not your fight, and I wouldn't think less of you if you had other business." Yakol shook his head.
"With all I've learned today, it is imperative I report in person to my leader, if Liatra wouldn't mind opening a portal for me. But I offer Meslar's service in battle for the light, if you'd have him."
Meslar made a fist and punched it to his chest plate. I'd never seen him without it.
It would be my honor to fight by noble creatures such as the elves.
Great, I said. Pack your stuff, folks. Time to get it on. 37. Charney stared around at the elves, flashing him strange expressions.
You sure about this, boss?
I patted his shoulder. I want you and Rashan at the back lines. Heal whoever you can. If we fall back, you fall back farther. Stay out of the line of fire. Just being in the raid is going to net you some serious XP. Use the lesser mana potions liberally so you can keep the archers on their feet. When this is over, you'll have new skills and wonder why you worried.
If you say so.
He meandered toward Rashan. Giles, who just introduced himself to Meslar, jogged over to me.
Welcome, Gemini. I would introduce you to my mother, but we have ferried her away to a safe place.
I understand. Maybe I'll have the pleasure later.
Hopefully. For now, I must take you to the front.
I'm eager to see what you referenced in our chat. I led Thunder by his reins.
Nice horse,
Giles said.
It breathes fire?
A lot of it. Where's this mountain you've been bragging about? Giles pointed midway up a tree behind us. At first I didn't see anything. Then it moved. I set my hands on my hips. Dude, you were right. That's a badass mount.
I told you, Gemini.
Always right. Clean dirt trails intertwined and shot out in all directions across the manicured forest floor. It was apparent the elves tended the area with regularity, and footing wouldn't be a problem if the combat came here. But with so many, I wondered how they didn't get lost. We walked for about a quarter mile, then approached a tree line at the edge. Giles activated stealth and I followed suit. The grassy field eased up a steady incline to a hill crest about half a mile away. The sun gleamed off a line of silver plate mail from the southern edge to the northern.
They arrived an hour ago or so. Thanks to your warning, we were able to send riders down this tree line, so they knew we were aware. They stopped and haven't moved since.
Okay. Do we have enough elves for this?
We also have the human offspring of those we rescued from the governor's father all those years ago, so we should be able to face this threat if they dare enter the forest.
So, we'll draw them in.
If only it were so easy.
He pointed toward a higher peak in the distance.
Can you see atop that rocky outcropping?
I squinted. Not really. I don't have your elven eyes. Then the boulder I thought I was seeing moved. Wide wings spread and swept into the air, dipping low to the ground, then elevating toward us. It turned and passed over the troops. Scales covered its lizard-like form from its snout to the tip of its tail.
Armored demon hippogriff, level 50. A fallen demon of the ancient bird lizards that are the closest thing to dragons in Enora online. Hippogriffs are capable of long bursts of fire and concussive wind attacks. Hippogriffs inhabit a continent you have not yet discovered, but are trained and imported by brave souls who dare.
A shriek echoed down the hill and across the valleys. I raised fingers to plug my ears as it swept by.
Is someone riding that thing?
Giles nodded.
But she has masked her interface so I can't know who she is, nor her level.
Oh no. I waited for the hippogriff to pass within range, then activated my interface.
Unknown High Priestess Dryad. Attributes blocked. This powerful being shrouds her attributes using the force of the seed of power in which she dwells.
Giles, you're looking at the High Priestess who has been wreaking havoc on Briarton for all these centuries. I believe her to be Jar's antithesis, and that can only mean one thing.
What's that?
The hippogriff turned in a wide arc, swept away from the hill to our south, then zoomed in our direction. As it bore down, the High Priestess raised a glowing red rod while the demon hippogriff spread its beak to reveal a fiery glow blooming in its throat. We're screwed. The end. This has been Seran's Reach, Enora Online, Book Number 5, written by Arlo Adams, narrated by Brian Meslar.